What a moment this was.
Shayna Jack, Molly O'Callaghan. Callahan's coming at her now. Molly O, can she go? She will. She'll be going to the World Championships, as will Shayna Jack.
After 2 long years in exile, that was Shayna Jack's triumphant return to the pool, booking her place in the team for the Commonwealth Games.
Well, the emotions, they were pretty overwhelming.
Isn't that a wonderful moment? Dean Boxall, the coach.
So that was Shayna Jack, a 23-year-old Australian swimmer. If anyone doesn't know the backstory, 2 or 3 years ago, I believe it was 2 years or thereabouts, a little bit longer, where she she got done for a positive sample in which Ligandrol was found in a urine analysis from a WADA anti-doping control test. I don't know exactly where it was from. I believe she was away, whether it was the World Championships or something like that. But nonetheless, she got found to have Ligandrol in her system. And the general response, as you know, we often see with athletes, is I didn't know where I got it from, or didn't know where it came from. I don't even know what it is. I have no idea how it's here, and I'm innocent. And, you know, on face value, so many athletes say this, but I honestly believe that Shayna Jack, and, you know, I did a case on how WADA rejected Shelby Houlihan's appeal, I guess, for testing positive for nandrolone. They upheld her 4-year ban, but I do believe that Shayna Jack didn't take Ligandrol, because if you appreciate the pharmacokinetics and dynamics of this drug, you will, I guess, see why it's not the best of ideas in professional sports. So we'll jump to an article. Okay, so this is the original article, one of the, I guess, original articles to come out about Shayna Jack's positive doping ban. I don't mean that like it was the first one, but it was just around the time that it happened. ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Shayna Jack tests positive for a banned substance. So what happens now? So when was this from? 2019, July. 31st of July, 2019. So almost three years ago now. So Shayna Jack's positive drug test has dominated headlines, and the controversy does not look like dying down anytime soon. Jack has revealed she tested positive to Ligandrol, a selective androgen receptor modulator, a SARM, common in some realms of sports, but in drug-tested sports, it's kind of weird that you would go about performance enhancing through a drug like this, which forced her to withdraw from Australia's squad for the World Swimming Championships. She claims she does not know how the banned substance entered her body. The 20-year-old is facing a lengthy suspension from swimming and will learn more about her fate when she meets with the Australian Anti-Doping Authority, ASADA, Sports Anti-Doping Authority, on Friday. So how did she find herself in this place? So she failed a routine out-of-competition drug test in late June, just weeks before her World Swimming Championships began in Gwangju, South Korea. So obviously, she was preparing for the World Championships, and out of competition, randomly selected drug test. She didn't know what was going to happen, and she got caught with this drug. So, that in and of itself, I guess, if you got caught with something in competition, it's kind of like, why would you do that? But given that it's leading up to World Championships, you can see why people kind of think, well, of course this makes sense as to why someone might be tempted to do something like this or take something that might enhance their capacity to perform well at the World Championships. But then again, I don't actually think that she did, and we'll get into that as to why. Not saying she didn't, not saying she did or didn't, but I just don't think it makes sense as to why someone would, given a few things, which we'll jump into, like the long detection profile and all that kind of stuff. So if we scroll down, so what's the length of the ban? So she got done for 4 years, which is generally the standard doping ban for testing positive for a banned substance. I think you can get an 8-year ban if you have multiple substances or it's, particular circumstances. So the challenge for Shayna Jack is to prove to a tribunal the source of the prohibited substance and her mitigated fault for how it came to be in her system. So essentially, if you're going to get a ban regardless of whether you ingested it intentionally or not. And so this is the case. But you can have a reduction in the severity of that ban. And I believe that if you can prove it wasn't intentionally ingested, it can come down to 2 years or something like that. So this was her whole goal. And she basically went about the next 2 years of, basically trying to prove that she didn't take it intentionally. So how long will the investigation last? Obviously, it's a lengthy process. And so can Jack use ignorance to plead her case? To put it simply, no, she can't. The anti-doping policy in place for Australian swimmers, and really anyone competing in the world anti-doping or like under the WADA code, could not be any clearer, as explained via a series of bullet points on Swimming Australia's website. You are responsible for knowing what the anti-doping rule violations are. You must find out which substances and methods are prohibited. Ignorance is not an excuse. You must be aware of the rules in this anti-doping policy. This anti-doping policy adopts the strict liability principle. Athletes are responsible for anything found in their system, regardless of whether you knew you had it there or not, or whether you did it intentionally or not. So it's kind of like hard luck. If you be found with it, you're going to go positive, or you're going to get a ban, of course. You must be aware of the sanctions that could be applied to you in this anti-doping policy. So both Swimming Australia and WADA, and then here, so Australian swimmers are warned about the use of supplements. And what have we got here? Creatine, glutamine, whey protein, casein, a few other dietary supplements. This is Chemist Warehouse, a big chemist brand in Australia. I guess supplements are regulated to an extent, but they're not bound by the stringent, rules and or outlined by, they're not bound by the guidance of like something like a therapeutic goods administration, in which like every single product has to be batch tested for performance enhancing drugs. Even if things are batch tested, it's not an absolute guarantee. So you've always got to take caution. And I think that she did, where if it says, she did kind of go about the, making the case that she unintentionally ingested it from a substance or a supplement which she was taking. But it's weird that this article doesn't even kind of mention that, given that they had that picture before. But nonetheless, she argued that a supplement she was taking was the reason as to why this got into her system. And I think there was two versions of the supplement. There was an Australian version. There was one produced in the States. They tested the Australian version. None of them were found to contain the substance. They went to the one in the States. And I think there might have actually been some cases whereby, some of these products did contain the Ligandrol or the SARM. So it wasn't, but then again, it's not like a hard and done case, because you have to prove that your exact supplement, not just anyone off the shelf, contain the actual thing. So, obviously it's a tough one. Obviously there's a lot of money and lawyers and everything that gets involved and thrown into this. But long story short, she had her ups and downs with it. It took a very big emotional toll. And I'll skip through to a video that was about a year ago where it kind of looked like it wasn't going to work out and the 4-year ban was going to be upheld. And remember as well, guys, she was 19, 20, I think she was 20 years old when this happened. And that's really the peak for a woman in swimming. Like if you are now 24 coming back, you've missed 4 years of your absolute peak. And swimmers don't have the longest careers unless you're someone like Michael Phelps or someone who just swims, and can repeat or like have a long career. So we'll jump to her basically explaining now like the difficulty of it all and the emotional toll it was taking.
2019, Jack tested positive for banned substance Ligandrol and was sent into 4 years exile. She fought, had the ban reduced to 2 years, only for anti-doping bodies to appeal.
I did prove that I did not intentionally ingest that substance.
Now she has to again.
And unfortunately, they decided to take me through this all again, to take me through the heartbreak, to take me through all the emotion.
It's already cost her $130,000.
I don't have the funds, and nor does my family.
For the 22-year-old, a 4-year ban is again a reality. She set up a page pleading for donations.
Anything is beneficial to me, and I'm grateful for all your continued support. but now I really need something else that can get me over that finish line.
The sudden emergence of this carefully worded emotional video indicates her final time of reckoning is nigh. Pat Welch, 7 years.
Alrighty, so a bit there. She actually copped a fair bit of slack for this video. It was during the middle of the lockdowns that we had from the you-know-what, and there were people saying like, oh, you know, there are bigger problems in the world, like what, like, you know, funding, you're just crying out. And it's kind of like, well, look, I see both sides of it. And I think that at the end of the day, obviously it took a massive emotional toll on her and her family, but combined, they'd already spent over $100,000 in legal fees. And that in and of itself goes to show, like, imagine if you're a Kenyan runner, you come from no money at all, and then what, like, you go positive for EPO, which unfortunately many of them do, but that's the reality of the sport. But, you get done for doping, and there is no way you can even fight it, even if you're fully innocent. You know what I mean? So it goes to show that only there are few that can actually even afford to take WADA on in a legal case. And the fact that it cost her all this money, you know, like, does she get reimbursed all those legal fees? Now she's proven that she didn't intentionally ingest it. You know, it's just like tough luck, you know. And now, even though she's now had the ban reduced, it still obviously has such an emotional, financial toll on the athlete that it's happened to. Interesting that she says she had it overturned, and I believe I did see some news articles come out about that, and then they, like, WADA reversed it. So that's, you know, pretty bizarre, but goes to show they can kind of do what they want. And it's really like, once you're done, it's like, now you're guilty and you have to prove your innocence, and it's going to be very difficult. Shelby Houlihan couldn't do it, but Shayna Jack has managed to do so. So, you know, credit to her. And I think that now, like Ligandrol, what did she even go positive for? Let's jump into it, guys. All right. So, Ligandrol. What is Ligandrol? Ligandrol is a non-steroidal oral, so something you just ingest orally, selective androgen receptor modulator. It's a SARM, right? SARMs are very popular in some bodybuilding communities. I think the use of these things has, like, increased drastically, but at the end of the day, there's not a lot of science or not a lot of studies on many of those things, apart from the exception would be ostarine, which there are, you know, a few long-term kind of studies on this stuff. But LGD-4033, Ligandrol. It was developed by, or discovered by, Ligand Pharmaceuticals, hence the name Ligandrol, and developed under Viking Therapeutics. So a novel or a new compound, WADA, has found this in a few samples in humans, in racehorses too. Essentially, you know, what is SARMs? SARMs are basically anything which are more tissue selective than the original androgen. So the original androgen being testosterone. If something is more selective at the androgen receptor than testosterone in and of itself, it's going to be classified as a selective androgen receptor modulator. This is why things such as trenbolone are technically SARMs, because they are more selective at the androgen receptor than something like testosterone. But it still has that kind of testosterone backbone, whereas, or, you know, progestogenic testosterone backbone. But at the end of the day, these novel oral SARM compounds are often, you know, completely different to bioidentical testosterone, right? They have backbones derived from trifluoro-1-hydroxyethyl. Oh, sorry, it has a trifluoro-1-hydroxyethyl backbone. So basically, that's the, you know, the structure of the compound, and, you know, completely unrelated to testosterone. It doesn't look anything like it structurally, but the actual binding of it is more selective to the androgen receptor. So it's designed in a manner that allows it to do so. So we'll bring up a study now anyway. Actually, before we do, why would it be beneficial for a swimmer to take that even? So obviously anything which is anabolic is going to be enhancing recovery. It's going to be enhancing muscle growth, power output. I guess essentially the main thing is going to be that explosive power. Remember, I actually don't think that she would take something like this, but remember, why would it benefit her? She swims 50 meters, 100 meters. Explosive sports, sprinting, muscle mass is going to be beneficial. Power, it's going to be beneficial. All these things are going to be enhanced by something like Ligandrol. So, there is justification as to why someone would take something like that. I don't believe she would, because it just doesn't make sense. I think there are, if you were going to dope there, I think there are better compounds which are less detectable, especially when you're competing in the world championships, and you're going to be out of competition tested at some stage or whatnot. It just seems so risky for the benefit. And there are more efficacious and more, safe compounds which athletes will take that aren't as detectable. So anyway, we'll jump in. We'll have a look at a study now, looking at the pharmacodynamics and actually the detectability of LGD-4033 or Ligandrol in human urine. All right, so here's a study, human in vivo metabolism study of LGD-4043, aka Ligandrol. This was in the journal. What journal is this in? Special edition research article. Drug test analysis. So, testing the metabolites of drugs and whatnot. But when was this from? 2008. So pretty recent. Basically, look, you can read through the whole article. I'll link it below if anyone wants to jump in and have a look at the methods and everything else. But for the sake of time, let's keep it simple. So the general consensus from this study was that supplements containing Ligandrol, or a supplement was containing Ligandrol, was administered to one human male volunteer, and urine samples were collected up to almost 21 days. Analysis of the hydrolyzed as well as the non-hydrolyzed samples were performed using liquid chromatography, high-resolution mass spectroscopy, LC-HRMS, in negative ionization mode. It reveals that in both cases, two isomers of the dihydroxylated metabolite M5 were preferred target metabolites. The glucoconjugated parent LGD-4033 and its glucoconjugated metabolites M1 and M2 can also be considered useful target analytes in non-hydrolyzed samples. The study also presents other metabolites first time. And I believe that essentially what they found, they tested urine for up to 21 days after. We'll scroll down the results. And, some of these metabolites were detectable up into that time period. This one here, elimination time, 5 days. Where are we here? Anyway, you guys can have a look at this journal article, but I believe that the main conclusion was that, at the end of the day, some of these things were detected for up to a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks even, post one administration. 2 isomers, detected for even longer than 21 days for some of these isomers and up to 7 days for other ones. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, WIDO are going to have their own, method of testing. They're going to test, presumably for these metabolites which have a longer detection period. No one really knows exactly the actual specifics. Like these articles or whatnot aren't going to give you a specific detection time for something like Ligandrol, whereby it's detectable for 61 days, and therefore you can take it for this long and get away with it. No one's going to give you that information. There's a whole lot of uncertainty here. The studies haven't necessarily been done for the sake of athletes. They're done for the sake of, what can we detect and whatnot. But anyway, even with the potential to detect something for up to longer than 3 weeks, why would you even take something like this in sports when there are better options? There are bioidentical hormones. There are probably novel compounds, which, I'm not saying people are taking, but there are probably better options, is what I'm trying to say, than something which even has the chance or the possibility of being detected for up to 3 weeks. Because you probably know that before the World Championships, 3 weeks, even let's say it was a minimum or a maximum of 3 weeks. We don't know that. No one really knows that. WIDO probably does. But say, for example, you knew it was the 3 week time period. Why would you take something that could be detected for that long? It was like when we saw, what is it, Cardarine, and a few cyclists went positive for Cardarine, and they came back and they said, they're like, shit, I took this like 3 months ago. And we just don't know, because these things are so unrelated to anything naturally produced by the body. It's very easy to pick up. And it doesn't really make sense from the context of trying to escape or trying to enhance performance whilst not going positive. Obviously, if you weren't a tested athlete, yeah, whatever. Like, there's no consequence in terms of going positive. But from a tested athlete's perspective, I honestly don't think that you would take this. I think that Shayna Jack is 100% telling the truth when she, unfortunately though, it doesn't matter, and she's still got a 2-year ban, and it cost her over $100,000 to even get that down from 4 years to 2 years. So it's still a huge impact on her career. But obviously, she's come back with a vengeance. She won the 100-meter. She got second at the 100 meters, qualified for the World Championships at the Australian Championships, and she also won the 50 meters, I think, and set the fastest time on record for this year. So she's come back with a vengeance, but which is great. Often athletes never come back from doping bans, because it's just such a long time period in their career. But at the end of the day, that's Ligandrol, selective androgen receptor modulator. I don't think that you would take this if you were a tested athlete, knowing that you're probably going to be tested sometime during any 1 month interval. It's too risky, I think, from that perspective. And that is why I believe that it's not something anyone would intentionally ingest unless you're having an absolute brain fade and you just were banking on the idea that, or the potential concept that or the potential outcome that you're not going to be tested by luck. It's just too risky. So I think that, it's unfortunate. And again, it goes to show that the anti-doping rules are cutthroat. They are super strict. An athlete can do everything right and accidentally ingest something through a tainted supplement. It's not like this whole idea of tainted supplements isn't new. This has been going around for a long time. So, guys, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but in the States, I think there's even less regulation regarding regarding some of this stuff. But that's the video, guys. I've probably missed some important details, but I think we've covered most of it. What she went positive for, her reason as to how it might have gotten into her system, the eventual outcome, which was that she had the ban reduced from 4 years to 2 years, cost her a lot of money in legal fees, she got some backlash for that. But, I think she would have done all right in the meantime, because no one really dropped her like they have other athletes in the past. We see what happens when some other athletes go positive and it's like all the sponsors pull out. That didn't happen. I think she still had some sponsorships. She got some airtime on some TV shows, SAS Australia, something like that. Did plenty of ads, commercials. I think she would have done okay, but it doesn't reverse the injustice of, some of this stuff. And it's like, there's arguments. It's like, well, she shouldn't have taken a supplement if she didn't know exactly what was in it. It's like, yeah, but I agree. But it's, it's really tough. I think it's really cutthroat. And if I don't know, guys, if you're a tested athlete, man, you can think you're doing everything right and bit of bad luck, like this instance. And, it's game over. So at the end of the day, she's back though. Hopefully has a good rest of her career and can, perform as she wants to and everything else. And I think that that's her case. I think it's a word of warning or a tale in which we should learn plenty from, unless something is batch tested and has a good reputation. Be very careful with supplements. And it's pretty shitty that some of these things can be tainted. But at the end of the day, I don't think she took this intentionally. I think it's obviously, very unfortunate. And it's kind of like, even though it's not intentional, you still get 2-year ban and have to fork up all this money in fees and everything else for legal fees and whatnot to fight us. So there you go. That's WADA. That's drug testing. That's the cutthroat reality of sports. So take care, guys. See you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed that one. Let me know. Leave a comment if I missed anything important, what you guys think. Do you think that she... I'm not going to say intentionally took it because I think it's kind of settled. Like I'm of the opinion that she's pretty innocent there. But let me know what you guys think of the case in general. And yeah, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts and insights. And I'll see you guys in the next video. So cheers. Take care. Bye.